Now joining me to talk more about this is Maria Colacurcio, who is the CEO at Syndio, a company providing expert-backed technology to help businesses achieve workplace equity. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Trinity. Thanks so much for having me today.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. And, I know that you're an advocate for equal pay and you're very passionate about sports as well. So can you take us through some of the biggest challenges female athletes are facing when it comes to pay equity?
Absolutely. And I'm going to start with just a quick story because I have 7 kids, as you know, and 5 of them are girls. And 2 of my daughters, identical twins, compete in competitive cheer. And a couple of days ago, a dear friend of mine was talking to them and she asked them, "What do you love most about cheer?" Expecting their answer to be along the lines we think about for women. Something like, "I love my coaches," or "I love spending time with my team." One of my daughters looked her straight in the face and said, "I love winning." And she said it without any affect. And that's one of the things that we need to work on because there was a study that came out a couple of weeks ago that women, particularly in the workplace, ambition is still looked down upon as a trait that holds us back. And holds us back not just in how we're able to progress, but holds us back in things like pay and opportunity equity. So I think it's more than just pay. It's also this cultural moment of it's got to be okay for women to want to win.
No, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. But from your perspective, how do you address this problem and what are some viable solutions that you see?
Absolutely. So, what we're seeing with workplaces as well as with sports organizations is that you've got to be analyzing why you pay what you pay and making sure that you have pay parity by using data and analytics to come to that conclusion. So, that's the software that we offer, but it enables companies to not just stick their finger in the air to figure out, are we paying people fairly, but to have a very analytical approach to identify, do they have disparities that are because of something like gender, race, or ethnicity?
And what do you think are some of the major key factors when it comes to such a pay disparity between women and men's sports? What do you think is driving this?
I think a lot of it is some of the negotiation that goes into these contracts. You've got to go at it from the perspective of what does parity look like? And there's so much discretion that goes into some of the ways the contracts are constructed that we've got to take a step back and think about parity. We've got to think about parity in terms of making sure that the women athletes are not held back in these contractual arrangements because of things like parental leave or having a baby or coming back after that, but really looking at it from a why are they paid what they're paid? Is it because of revenue? Is it because of performance? Is it because of something else? And making sure that those are aligned and in lockstep to create equity across the board.
And as a CEO, what sort of advice would you have for companies, organizations, or different sports leagues to really bridge that gap when it comes to pay equality?
I think one of the biggest things is that it's really difficult right now to become and stay an employer of choice, a place where people want to work, they want to stay, they want to participate. And so as a company, you've got to start leaning into transparency, leaning in to engage with your employee resource groups, whether that's your women's network or other networks, and be willing to create the transparency and saying, we're committed to analyzing our pay equity and communicating to you a summary of those results in order to build that trust. That's one of the biggest things companies and organizations can do right now.
Some very important advice. Thank you so much, Maria, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.